At a nuclear security summit in the US, North Korea's nuclear ambitions were high on the agenda. US President Barack Obama joined with his counterparts from Japan and South Korea to warn Pyongyang against further provocations. Meeting on the sidelines of the summit, the trio called for North Korea to give up further nuclear and missile tests or face more sanctions. Leaders from more than 50 countries were in Washington to discuss how to secure nuclear materials from falling into the hands of terrorists.
In many countries, possession of nuclear material for sale was not a crime. So another area that we've put a lot of emphasis on is improving our ability not only to locate smuggled material and find the nuclear smugglers, but also to bring them to justice.
It comes after the terror attacks in Brussels and investigations into the networks behind them, which have increased fears that the ISIL group could target nuclear plants, steal materials and develop dirty bombs.
The Obama administration claims that it's harder than ever before for terrorists to acquire nuclear materials. Yet the summit includes a special conference on groups like ISIL, who have targeted urban areas around the globe. A clear sign that a nuclear threat by terrorists is still looming. Stefan Gruber, Euronews, Washington.
North Korea's atomic threat is one of the world's biggest nuclear security problems. In February 2016, the launch of a missile by the Pyongyang regime was seen as a disguised test for a long-range weapon, eventually capable of carrying an atomic warhead. Kim Jong-un says North Korea is near the testing stage for a miniaturized device, and in January claimed to have exploded a hydrogen bomb for the first time. Despite unprecedented UN Security Council sanctions voted into effect in March with Beijing's support, North Korea continues almost daily threats against its southern neighbor, and even the USA. The other big worry is the catastrophic scenario of a terrorist attack using a dirty bomb, especially if one fell into the hands of ISIL. During a wave of arrests in December, Belgian police found a surveillance video of the daily routine of the former head of Belgium's nuclear program. It was filmed by the twin suicide bombers who attacked Brussels, the El Barouki brothers, Ibrahim and Khalid. Security around Belgium's nuclear plants has since been stiffened, even as we learn that the country's Doel 4 reactor was sabotaged in 2014, and the author of that attack is still at large. Experts are more scared not of a direct attack, but that nuclear materials could be stolen and used in a dirty bomb that, while not especially destructive, could poison a large area for decades and spark a panic. The International Atomic Energy Agency has compiled 2,734 incidents in the last 20 years of smuggling, illegal possession, losses or thefts of nuclear material. Last November, a device that uses gamma radiation to detect faulty pipeline welds was stolen from the Weatherford Company warehouse in Basra, Iraq's main port. That is classified Grade 2 material, according to the IAEA, which can cause permanent tissue damage and death if handled incorrectly. By sheer luck, it was found again undamaged in a rubbish dump a few weeks later. The Basra authorities believe it was because the thieves were probably unable to find a buyer and so got rid of it.
Brussels airport has a green light to partially reopen on Friday evening, but airport police are threatening a strike over what they say are lax security measures. The airport was given the go-ahead from the Belgian Civil Aviation Authority and fire services for a partial restart of passenger flights. However, Belgian media report that police insist on having systematic security checks of every passenger entering the buildings, a demand so far not included in proposals. Under current plans, a temporary departure area would allow the airport to deal with 800 passengers per hour, around 20% of the normal capacity. A full reopening could take months, as the infrastructure was severely damaged in the bomb attacks on March 22nd. Meanwhile, a Belgian court decided that Paris terror suspect Salah Abdeslam could be extradited to France. It comes after his initial objection to being removed from the country following his arrest in Brussels just days before the terror attacks. However, his extradition could take several weeks, as Abdeslam is also wanted for questioning in relation to the Brussels bombings. Police believe attacks in both capitals were carried out by the same militant network.
The Greek Parliament is expected to vote on Friday on measures putting into practice the EU's accord with Turkey on the return of refugees and migrants. The authorities have begun busing the first of an estimated 6,000 refugees from the port of Piraeus near Athens to other parts of the country. Mainly from Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan, they're among tens of thousands stuck in Greece since Balkan countries closed their borders. Turkey's Prime Minister says the deal should help control numbers and prevent further loss of life. This approach will go into effect starting next Monday, he says. For every refugee we take in, one refugee will be sent to Europe. This way we'll achieve a balance, cut off illegal routes and stop human traffickers who profit in such a cowardly manner from those illegal routes. Italian officials have warned that the deal to restrict the number of migrants travelling via Turkey could increase the flows through Libya to Italy. Thousands have been rescued from the Mediterranean by the Italian Coast Guard this week after attempting the dangerous crossing.
Shocked to the core, that was the reaction of UN Chief Ban Kimoon to new allegations of sexual abuse by peacekeepers in the Central African Republic. Announcing 108 new alleged victims, the vast majority of them children, the UN said it would leave no stone unturned in investigations, though could not confirm reports of forced bestiality.
The interventions of the international community helped save the Central African Republic from an unspeakable fate. Yet we must face the fact that a number of troops who were sent to protect people instead acted with hearts of darkness. These crimes fester in silence. That is why the Secretary General is shining a spotlight on these despicable, depraved and deeply disturbing allegations.
The countries whose peacekeepers were accused, France, Gabon and Burundi, have all been notified. It comes on the back of dozens of allegations of child rape by its peacekeeping forces, especially those based in the Central African Republic. With a political crisis threatening to topple Brazil's President Dilma Rousseff, thousands of her supporters rallied to her side in Rio and 17 other cities as the embattled leader fights to survive a push to have her impeached. Efforts to oust her have been growing amid allegations of corruption and account fiddling, but her supporters see it as an attempt at a coup. This woman wants to see an end to corruption, but not by removing the government. If the impeachment happens, there's going to be civil unrest because there's no legal reason for the impeachment. So if it happens, if something is forced, then it's a coup. More and more each day, we're in favor of consolidating democracy. It comes after the biggest party in Congress withdrew from her ruling coalition, increasing her risk of losing an impeachment vote later in April. Her ally and former President Lula da Silva is leading calls to keep Rousseff in office. However, he faces charges linked to a corruption probe involving the state-owned oil company Petrobras.
At least 23 people are now known to have died after a flyover bridge under construction in India collapsed. Dozens have been injured in the tragedy in the eastern city of Kolkata, and rescue efforts are still underway for survivors. As many as 100 people have already been pulled from the rubble, many with serious injuries. Kolkata is the capital of the state of West Bengal, and the chief minister there is promising a full investigation and prosecution if any negligence is found. But the state government is itself facing questions over the construction project, which is already 5 years overdue. A local newspaper reported last November that engineers expressed concern that a deadline for completion by February, as requested by the government, might not be possible.